Hello everyone, this is Phoenix Wide View. In April 1938, after the Northern Front had fallen, Peking University, Tsinghua University, and Nankai University were forced to move west to Kunming in Yunnan, where they proclaimed the founding of the National Southwest Associated University. From that point on, Long Yun, governor of Yunnan Province, and this landmark institution in Chinese educational history formed an inseparable bond that lasted 8 years. Under his protection, Southwest Associated University reached its peak in Kunming. Throughout this period, Long Yun faced significant political peril. He repeatedly safeguarded the university and other democratic forces, allowing the seeds of democracy and freedom to take root and spread like sparks. On October 10, 1944, coinciding with the Double Ten Festival, the faculty and students of Southwest Associated University launched a bold campaign for democracy against the Kuomintang dictatorship. Names like Hu Hansheng surfaced repeatedly during these demonstrations. The assembly took place with Long Yun's consent, while his troops and police maintained order. To recall, on July 7, 1937, the Marco Polo Bridge incident broke out, and northern China fell to the Japanese. Under the invaders' iron grip, the three renowned universities could not remain safe and initially retreated south to Changsha in Hunan. As the fighting spread, in April 1938, they moved west again to Kunming, where the foundation of Southwest Associated University, or Lianda, was firmly established. In Kunming, obtaining the local government's support is essential. The cooperation between the two sides is very good, basically a green light all the way. I saw in this Yunnan Provincial Archives a lot of material. For example, Southwest Associated University needed land, and almost immediately a plot was approved. With Long Yun's support, Kunming opened its arms, and the National Southwest Associated University quickly took root in Yunnan by renting campus buildings. Then Long Yun also carved out part of his own mansion on Kunming's Waiwan Street to house the school's offices, which soon became a widely told tale. On May 20, 1940, the Yunnan Daily reported, "The Long Family Lecturing Society has been allotted to the city's major universities and Southwest Associated University for 120 named individuals. At the time, the faculty and students of Southwest Associated University, filled with national grievance, burned with shared resolve, and this wartime university rose to its peak, standing as a towering monument in modern Chinese education history. The Japanese had occupied much of China. We cannot continue living under Japanese servitude. We must rally our spirit, resist Japan, and strive for national freedom." At Kunming, Lianda, Southwest Associated University, had a rule. Private cars were not allowed on campus. Hu Shuzhen, the wife of Long Yun's eldest son, who had just died in the United States, graduated from Lianda in 1939. In her recollection, she said that at the time she lived at home, her father-in-law, the old chairman, urged her not to ride to school by car. During Lianda days, she did not receive special treatment. She did not participate in the student movements of that year, though she heard Li Gongpu and Wen Yiduo's lectures. She was a student of the administrative Lianda. Consequently, Lianda, before leaving Kunming, established an alumni association. This alumni association organised several activities, some held at Long Yun's home, because the president was Long Yun's daughter-in-law. Not long after Lianda spread the seeds of democratic freedom, Kunming, Yunnan, briefly gained renown as a centre of scholarship, a cradle of talent, and a fortress of democracy. Freedom's atmosphere flowed across this vast southwest land, and Long Yun, who had always respected knowledge and talent, was deeply touched by Lianda's move to Yunnan. Many of the nation's renowned professors were part of this shift, and my father kept in contact with them. In frequent meetings with these famous professors, discussions of the nation's major affairs were inevitable. Thus, these enlightened professors each hold their own distinct opinions on the matter. Then what about my father? He too, without any prompting or prior arrangement, coincidentally concurs with their opposition to dictatorship. He advocates democracy as a whole now. December 1941, after Hong Kong fell, the Ministry of Education of the Kuomintang government at one time planned to move Southwest Associated University to Sichuan, but later, as the situation eased, the idea was shelved. At that time, the number of Communist Party members at Southwest Associated University reached well over 100, making up about 1/3 of the entire underground party membership in Yunnan. This immediately drew Chiang Kai-shek's attention. Soon he dispatched his trusted Kuomintang Rejuvenation Society operative Kang Ze in person to Kunming to press Long Yun to get involved. Long Yun? What about him? Openly compliant in appearance, secretly defiant in fact, leaking tips and warning signals, among other things. These acts served to shield the progress of Southwest Associated University. If Southwest Associated University had been located in Guiyang, or in Chongqing, or in Chengdu, it would have presented a very different face altogether. In fact, as early as the eve of the Double Ten Festival in 1944, the Kuomintang authorities had already realized that Southwest Associated University would spark a new wave of student protests. At that time, the Kuomintang government forces stationed in Kunming were led by He Yingqin, who personally stepped forward and ordered Long Yun, the man responsible for maintaining local order, to arrest the students. Lu Yu heard this and remarked, "Leave this matter to my brothers to handle." In effect, he was merely delaying you. Long Yun was the one acting as Southwest University's defender, serving as the nation's bulwark. That day, a grand rally was held as scheduled at the Kunming Kunhua Girls Middle School Plaza. At the gathering, Democrats Li Gongpu, Wen Yiduo, Luo Longji, Chu Tunan, Zhang Shiruo, and other progressive figures spoke fervently, urging a reorganization of the Kuomintang government and the establishment of a united government. Only when he returned home did he, in particular elation, tell his wife that today's meeting had been a great success, that Long Yun was safeguarding the proceedings. By the end of 1944, with the introductions of Wen Yiduo, Chu Tunan, and others, Long Yun has secretly joined the China Democratic League. By this time, Southwest University and the entire Kunming area, under Long Yun's sway, had become a famous democratic fortress. Long Yun repeatedly disobeyed orders. He finally drew Chiang Kai-shek's anger, and after his wartime resistance and the life and death outcome that followed, a deep foreshadowing was laid for his own future. Wasn't his aid to Southwest University more than merely ordinary? Of course, much of it is concrete and specific, but the main point is that there are some fundamentally essential forms of aid. So how could Southwest Associated University in Yunnan, over 8 years, complete the task of running this school? In this effort, that achievement was entirely due to the nurturing care and support of the people of Yunnan, especially the elders, and among them a representative figure is, indeed, the farmer. On October 3, 1945, the Yunnan incident erupted. Long Yun was detained by Chiang Kai-shek and placed under house arrest in Chongqing. As his presence faded from the public sphere, white terror gradually spread, reaching its peak in December with the infamous 112 blood case. In the following year, Li Gonghu and Wen Yiduo were assassinated in rapid succession in Kunming, staining the once vibrant fortress of democracy with deep blood. That year, democratic forces in Yunnan and Kunming remained highly active, guiding the country from afar. Beyond Southwest Associated University, underground CCP organizations, the Chinese Democratic League, and numerous social groups operated courageously. It was under Long Yun's influence that these diverse political forces could unite in Kunming for a true gathering of minds and ideals, earning the city its reputation as a fortress of democracy. As early as 1934, the Nanjing National Government had established the Aviation Committee, appointing Song Meiling as Secretary General to organize the Chinese Air Force. Little known is that Long Yun was elected a member of this committee. 4 years later, in the autumn of 1938, Yunnan's first air battle took place in the skies above Kunming. From that moment, Long Yun embarked on a new chapter in aviation, forging a legend of national defense that would save the nation. On September 28, 1938, Japanese fighter aircraft brazenly appeared over Kunming skies, unleashing a ferocious bombing raid on the city's air defense batteries. Unexpectedly, several Chinese warplanes charged in and shot down 3 enemy aircraft in rapid succession. The Chinese Air Force achieved its first victory in the skies above Yunnan. That day, after the Japanese planes attacked and the Air Force Academy instructors and students defended Kunming, Long Yun personally led a delegation comprising representatives from Yunnan's party, government, military and all walks of society to the Aviation Academy to pay a condolence visit. After the outbreak of the War of Resistance, the cradle of the Chinese Air Force, the Central Aviation School, was relocated thousands of miles from Jiangqiao, near Hangzhou, to Kunming, Yunnan, and renamed the Central Air Force Officers School. Long Yun handed over the former Yunnan Aviation School's buildings, assets and personnel, all without compensation, and they were merged into the Central Air Force Officers School. On February 26, 1938, the 7th class of the Central Aviation School graduated, with Long Yun in attendance at the graduation ceremony. From then on, Kunming became the largest base for training Chinese Air Force pilots during the War of Resistance. Nearly 1,000 people were trained there, becoming the main force of the Chinese Air Force in the wartime effort. Beginning with the 7th class, every graduating class was accompanied by Long Yun at its graduation ceremony. This work had previously been performed by Chiang Kai-shek. In the early stages of the war, Japan's forces swept along the southeast coast. China sought international aid as its lifeline, and that lifeline could be cut at any moment, highlighting Yunnan's strategic position. The shrewd Long Yun, besides presiding over the construction of the Yunnan-Burma Road, also launched a drive to develop airfields across the province. In those early days, he built more than 20 airfields. The runway at Wujiapo Airport was extended to more than 1,000 metres. At the same time, many auxiliary airfields were repaired, eventually totalling more than 20. Later, with the arrival of the Flying Tigers and the construction of a few additional airfields, the number grew to over 50, making Yunnan's airfields the largest in the country at the time. Like the building of the Burma Road, the peoples of Yunnan, from all ethnic groups, laboured with the most primitive tools, laying the foundation for a major rear air corridor. Once the groundwork was completed, local civilians were mobilised. Almost all able-bodied men, young and old, joined the effort. Tools were scarce: hoes, manure spreaders, ox carts for transport, and stone hammers for crushing rock, but the farmers persevered. Meanwhile, Kunming, as the starting point of the Burma Road and the Kunming-Vietnam Railway, quickly became a prime target for the invading Japanese. From September 1938 onward, Kunming endured 54 air raids over more than 6 years, with casualties totalling 3,525. The constant alarms became a haunting memory, though they served their purpose. Initially called epidemic alerts, they forced people to run quickly. On one occasion, I ran to the east gate of the city and caught a bag thief right beside it. By the summer of 1941, however, the Chinese Air Force had suffered devastating losses. 65 frontline aircraft were shot down, leaving China's air superiority nearly exhausted. On August 1, 1941, the nationalist government authorized retired U.S. Captain Claire Chennault to form the American Volunteer Group, later famously known as the Flying Tigers. On December 18, 1941, Chennault and his Flying Tigers were stationed in Kunming. From that point on, ensuring U.S. military supply lines became Long Yun's top priority. What back then did I truly feel was the hardest thing, the most difficult thing I had to endure and overcome? He treated the entire Allied force, including logistics, and rear support as a single system, constantly grappling with the problem of daily food supplies. After the Pacific War began in December 1941, Allied troops in Kunming rapidly increased, peaking at over 50,000. Supplying them was difficult, especially because American soldiers favored milk, eggs, and particularly beef. Yunnan had few oxen, mainly water buffalo, whose meat was unpopular, so beef consumption quickly exhausted local supplies. As U.S. forces expanded, Kunming housed some 50,000 troops, including Air Force personnel and training staff. Despite shortages, the U.S. Air Force secured air superiority, making Yunnan the only wartime rear province to do so. When the Japanese cut the Burma Road, the Hump Air Route emerged. Together, the Burma Road and the Hump sustained a vital flow of international aid into China and were crucial to continued resistance. Longyun played a unique and central role in safeguarding this lifeline. The Hump Route, an air corridor from India to Kunming, became the longest, largest, and most dangerous flight route of World War II, and China's late war lifeline. On March 8, 1942, Japan launched the Burma Campaign and captured Rangoon, threatening the Burma Road. To defend it, the nationalist government sent 100,000 expeditionary troops to Burma. As Japanese forces advanced toward western Yunnan, confronting Longyun with another critical test. May 3, 1942. Japanese divisions advanced in rapid columns, armoured cars at their head, iron tracks thundering forward as they drove straight toward western Yunnan. Soon, the key towns of Manting, Guangxi, and Longlin fell one after another. On May 5th, the Japanese vanguard reached the western bank of the Huitong Bridge, and the Yunnan front entered its most perilous moment. After the Yunnan Front Highway was open to traffic, Japanese forces established a ground highway blockade committee near Lake Yulan and dispatched as many as 400 aircraft to bombard the route, striking several of its major bridges in particular. Huitong Bridge, spanning the New River, crossed a deep gorge long known as the river's heaven-defying chasm. From its western bank, the bridge led to eastern Myanmar and onward to Kunming. At the time, it was the only crossing between the two banks of the New River and the critical choke point of the wartime lifeline, the Burma Road. Engineer Ma Chong-liu foresaw that Huitong Bridge would almost certainly become a prime Japanese objective. Explosives were therefore planted in advance, with the understanding that when the crisis came, the bridge would be destroyed. If the Japanese managed to cross the New River at Huitong Bridge within 10 days, they could reach Kunming and threaten Chongqing. Facing a stronger enemy and weaker defences, blowing up Huitong Bridge was the only effective way to block the advance on the river's western bank. Far away in Kunming, Longyun watched the situation with deep anxiety. In later conversations, he repeatedly asked Ma Chong-liu the same question. Had the bridge in the end been blown up? Ma Chong-liu confirmed that the explosion had succeeded and the steel cable had fallen into the New River. In Kunming, Long Yun finally let out a long breath. With the Huitong Bridge destroyed, the Japanese army was held on the west bank of the New River for nearly 2 years. On May 10, 1932, Japanese forces invaded Tengchong, and more than 30,000 square kilometres west of the New River fell under occupation. After the Expeditionary Army was defeated and withdrew, Long Yun urgently mobilized the people of Western Yunnan to resist. Peasants directly supported the leaders he appointed. This commander, who even appeared on radio to promote resistance, organized guerrilla units deep in enemy rear areas. These forces harassed and struck the Japanese, tying down large numbers of enemy troops. With this strength, Long Yun defended his homeland with unwavering resolve and won the respect of the people of Yunnan. Across the province, memorial parks were spontaneously built to honor his anti-Japanese efforts and were named Jizhou Park after his courtesy name. People admired the discipline of his forces and their concern for civilians, which further strengthened his prestige. The Tengchong National Martyrs Cemetery was built by local residents to commemorate the fallen of the Chinese Expeditionary Army's 20th Group Army. Completed on July 7, 1945, it became the nation's earliest anti-Japanese martyrs cemetery, containing 3,242 tombstones arranged like troops ready to march. In Western Yunnan, defeat became the starting point for counterattack. After extensive covert preparations, Chinese forces launched a counteroffensive at key positions, despite suffering casualties at a 5-to-1 ratio. On May 11, 1944, the reorganized Chinese Expeditionary Army sent 2 corps across the New River and launched a fierce assault on Tengchong, marking the opening blow of the Western Yunnan counteroffensive. Long Yun mobilized workers and civilians to transport grain, ammunition, and the wounded, providing full support for the battle to retake Tengchong. Before we turn to the roughly 120,000 migrant workers, it is worth noting, as Song Xiliang later observed, that behind every soldier in the Expeditionary Army, there were essentially 2 ordinary people providing crucial support. Without this mass backing, the Western Yunnan counteroffensive could never have succeeded. On September 14, 1944, the Chinese Expeditionary Army completely annihilated the Japanese garrison and reclaimed its first lost territory. Tengchong, which had been occupied for 2 years, 4 months, and 4 days, was finally restored to Chinese control. The devastation of the battle was clear. Every tree in Tengchong bore at least 2 bullet holes per leaf, a stark reminder of the war's impact on the population. Though Japan declared unconditional surrender on August 15, 1945, the momentous news spread slowly. It first reached the Nanping Cinema in Kunming, where the US press office had received it that night and quickly relayed it by telephone to all the major theatres across the city. The news did not first arrive to the US from Tokyo, but from Kunming's Nanping Cinema. That evening, the American news desk stationed in Kunming received the report ahead of others and immediately phoned the city's major theatres to spread the word. Hearing this, people were overwhelmed with joy. The historic declaration seemed to leap from the screen. The lights briefly dimmed, and then, theatre by theatre, crowds poured into the streets, shouting that Japan had surrendered unconditionally. Some reports placed the surrender date as September 3, 1945, but the Yunnan Daily obtained the news, printed it on pink paper, and ran a front-page article by Long Yun, proclaiming victory and sending a unified message to the province. In the article, Long Yun could barely contain his joy, declaring that the greatest sacrifices had been made and would not have been spared in order to achieve victory. During the war, Yunnan, home to roughly 13 million people, had sent at least 420,000 troops to the front. From 1941 to 1945, the province shipped some 15,574 million dan of grain, second only to Sichuan. Yunnan had been the first province to mobilize troops against Japan and the first to drive the Japanese from its borders. After victory, Long Yun recalled the early days of the resistance, declaring that the road ahead had been extraordinarily arduous, and vowing to devote every ounce of the province's manpower and resources to the nation. The people of Yunnan endured years of hardship with extraordinary resilience, even in the face of grim conditions. Yet on this day of nationwide celebration, a vast and looming conspiracy was already pressing in on Long Yun, the hero of the anti-Japanese struggle. Up next, we'll present China Resources' Phoenix Focus,